Even pigs wouldn't eat this garbage. My mother-in-law's voice cracked through the dining room like a plate shattering on tile. 25 guests froze mid-bite. And before I could even process the words, she gripped the edge of the table I'd spent 3 days building into something beautiful, and flipped it. Glass exploded. Pot roast slid like a landslide. The lemon cake I'd baked at 2 a.m. hit the hardwood and burst apart in a soft yellow collapse. My wife applauded. Not nervous laughter. Not shock. Applauded. My name is Grant Whitaker. I'm 36 years old, and until that moment, I believed patience was a virtue that fixed things. That night, I learned patience just teaches people how long they can disrespect you. The dining room smelled like rosemary, burnt sugar, and humiliation. I stared at the food on the floor. My hands were steady, which scared me more than if they'd been shaking. My mother-in-law stood there, breathing hard, chest rising like she'd won something. I bent down slowly. Picked up a piece of the ruined cake. Frosting stuck to my fingers. Buttercream and dust. I stood up, walked toward her, and without raising my voice, without changing my expression, I smeared it across her face. Silence swallowed the room. And that's when the real birthday gift began to unwrap. Frosting slid down her cheek in slow, uneven lines. No one laughed. No one moved. You could hear the faint hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen and the soft crackle of candles still burning in what used to be a centerpiece. My mother-in-law blinked twice, stunned, not hurt, not angry yet, just confused. Like no one had ever answered her before. My wife, Lauren, stepped forward first. "What is wrong with you, Grant?" she snapped, her applause gone, replaced with that tight-lipped embarrassment she saved for when I didn't play along. Play along. That's what the last 8 years had been. I looked around the room at the guests, cousins, church friends, neighbors, all people who'd watched me mow her lawn, fix her gutters, drive her to doctor's appointments. People who had eaten my cooking before and called it wonderful. Now they stared at their shoes. I grabbed a cloth napkin from the wreckage and gently wiped frosting from my fingers. "I worked 3 days on that dinner," I said evenly. "If it's garbage, then I guess I've been serving garbage for years." Her face hardened. The frosting dripped onto her blouse. "You've always tried too hard," she said. "It's pathetic." And that word, pathetic, didn't sting. It clarified something. Because suddenly I wasn't embarrassed. I was done pretending. Done pretending. That realization didn't feel loud. It felt quiet. Clean. Like stepping outside after a storm and noticing the air is different. Lauren crossed her arms. "You embarrassed her," she said, as if I'd knocked over the table. As if I'd shouted first. I looked at my mother-in-law, Diane. Frosting still streaked across her jaw like war paint melting under the chandelier light. She didn't wipe it off. She wanted the room to see what I'd done. "You think this is about dinner?" Diane asked, voice low now, controlled. That was her real weapon, calm cruelty. No, it wasn't about dinner. It was about every Thanksgiving where she corrected how I carved turkey. Every Christmas where she rewrapped the gifts I bought because presentation matters. Every sideways comment about how Lauren could have married a surgeon. I was a high school history teacher. I loved my job. I believed in slow growth. In showing up. To Diane, that meant I lacked ambition. A fork crunched under my shoe as I stepped back. I noticed my palms were damp now. Not from fear, from adrenaline. I looked at the ruined food on the floor and realized something strange. I wasn't angry anymore. I was observing. And when you start observing instead of reacting, you stop being the easy target. I reached for my phone on the counter. Lauren's eyes narrowed. "Grant," she warned softly. But I wasn't raising my voice. I was pressing record. The red dot blinked quietly in the corner of my screen. I didn't announce it. I didn't hold the phone up dramatically. I just set it against the salt shaker on the counter, angled toward the room. "Come. Steady." Diane noticed first. "What are you doing?" she asked, finally wiping frosting from her chin with the back of her hand. "Documenting," I said. "Since presentation matters." A few guests shifted uncomfortably. Someone coughed. The candles on the collapsed cake were still burning sideways, tiny flames stubborn against gravity. Lauren stepped closer to me, lowering her voice. "Turn that off. Right now." "Why?" I asked gently. "If the food's garbage, if I'm pathetic, we should capture the honesty." Diane laughed, sharp and dismissive. "Oh please. Don't start playing victim." Victim. That word had lived in this house for years. It wore my face quietly. It paid bills. It smiled at insults to keep peace. I walked toward the fallen table and slowly righted one chair. Then another. Not to clean. Just to reclaim space. "You're right," I said, looking directly at Diane. This isn't about dinner. Lauren's jaw tightened. I turned the phone slightly so the red dot was impossible to ignore. It's about the fact that for 8 years, I continued, you've treated me like I'm temporary. Silence. The kind that doesn't protect anyone anymore. And for the first time, Diane didn't have a clever comeback ready. She had something worse. Nervousness. Nervousness doesn't shout. It flickers. Diane's eyes moved, not to me but to the guests. Measuring. Calculating. Her confidence had always depended on an audience that nodded along. Now the audience wasn't nodding. It was watching. Lauren stepped in front of the camera slightly. This is ridiculous, she said, but her voice lacked the sharp edge from before. It wavered. Just a little. I didn't raise my tone. I've sat at this table for 8 years, I said, and every time I've tried to belong, you've reminded me I don't. Diane scoffed. Belong? You married into this family. That doesn't make you one of us. There it was. Not subtle. Not disguised. A few guests exchanged glances. One of her church friends slowly set down her wine glass. I nodded slowly as if she'd just confirmed a theory I'd been testing. Thank you, I said. For what? Diane snapped. For finally saying it clearly. Lauren looked at her mother, really looked at her, like she'd heard that sentence land differently this time. The room smelled like spilled gravy and something else now. Truth. I picked up one of the fallen plates and placed it carefully on the sideboard. Not cleaning. Just steadying the room. I'm not temporary, I said quietly. And for the first time in years I wasn't trying to convince her. I was reminding myself. Lauren's breathing changed. It wasn't dramatic. Just slightly faster, like someone realizing they've been standing on the wrong side of a photograph for too long. Mom, she said carefully, that's not what you meant, right? Diane straightened her blouse, frosting smudged near the collarbone. Don't twist my words, she replied, but she didn't repeat them either. That was new. I stepped away from the camera and leaned against the counter. For years I'd fought to be chosen in small ways, defended at dinner, backed in arguments, seen. I always told myself Lauren was just avoiding conflict. But silence is a decision. I paid half for this house, I said calmly. I rebuilt the deck with my own hands. I drove you to chemo appointments, Diane. The room shifted again. That detail hadn't been public. Diane's lips pressed thin. And tonight, I continued, I cooked your favorite dishes. Not to impress you. Just to celebrate you. Lauren looked at the floor. The sideways candles finally burned out, thin smoke rising in soft gray threads. The room smelled faintly sweet again, like endings. I don't need applause, I said quietly. I need respect. The word hung there. Heavy. Simple. Lauren's eyes filled, not with anger. With recognition. And for the first time she didn't stand beside her mother. She stood still. Which, in this family, meant everything had just shifted. The room didn't explode. It softened. One of Diane's friends quietly grabbed paper towels and began blotting gravy from the floor. Someone else straightened a fallen chair. No one made eye contact with her. That silence wasn't fear anymore. It was distance. Lauren walked toward me slowly. Not rushed. Not dramatic. Just thoughtful. She stopped an arm's length away, eyes red but steady. I didn't realize how loud it's been, she said softly. I knew what she meant. Not volume. Pressure. Years of small humiliations stacked like plates waiting to fall. Diane laughed once, brittle. Oh please. He's manipulating this. But no one nodded. That was the part she couldn't control. I picked up my phone and stopped the recording. I didn't need it anymore. The moment had already settled into the walls. I'm not asking you to choose, I told Lauren. I'm asking you to see. The chandelier light caught in the frosting still faintly on Diane's sleeve. For once she looked smaller. Not defeated. Just exposed. Lauren turned toward her mother. And instead of defending her, she said something simple. Mom, you owe him an apology. The word apology felt foreign in that room. Diane opened her mouth. Closed it. And for the first time since I'd known her, she had nothing to say. Diane's mouth tightened like she'd bitten into something sour. The room waited. Not for a performance. Not for a comeback. For accountability. She began then stopped. Her eyes flicked to the guests again, but this time no one rescued her. No polite laughter. No validating murmurs. Just stillness. That stillness was the loudest thing I'd ever heard in her house. Finally she inhaled sharply. I overreacted, she said, each word dragged out like it cost her something. The dinner was fine. 8 years ago that would have crushed me. Tonight it told me everything I needed to know. Lauren stepped beside me, not behind me, not in front of me. Beside me. Her hand brushed mine, hesitant, like we were relearning something fragile. "You didn't deserve that," she said quietly for everyone to hear. And that was the real apology. Guests began gathering plates. Someone relit a candle. The chaos turned into cleanup, not because Diane commanded it, but because the tension had dissolved. I walked to the sink and rinsed frosting from my hands. It slid away easily. Respect doesn't come from shouting. It comes from staying steady when someone tries to flip your table. That night I didn't win. I didn't humiliate her. I simply stopped shrinking. And when I finally looked up from the sink, Diane wasn't watching me anymore. She was watching everyone else. Which meant the balance had changed. And sometimes that's the only revenge you need.